So let me thank all the honourable members who have spoken in support of the bill and for some of the questions and comments they have raised. First, Mr. Darrell David asked about the dual role of IMDA in terms of Infocom media industry development and regulation. So regulation and industry development are two sides of the same coin. There can be significant synergies when a single organization undertakes both regulation and industry development roles, as many of the policy trade-offs and discussions can take place concurrently. Today, IMDA and IDA and MDA are both regulators and developers of the Infocom and media sectors, respectively, and we have found that this approach works well and allows us to achieve an appropriate balance between development and regulation. We do, in fact, have a process in place for appointing diverse representatives from the industry so that their perspectives are incorporated into decisions while at the same time being mindful of potential conflicts of interest. And a good example is Mr. Ganesh himself, who is from the private sector, sitting on the MDA board. So we remain open to the representatives that we will seek on our board so that our board can be dynamic and timely in terms of its response. So Mr. Zaki Mohammed has asked for further elaboration and examples of how IMDA will develop the Infocom media industry. IDA and MDA are already working together to look into possible initiatives that will build on IDA's and MDA's strength and that will benefit the Infocom media industry as a whole. Mr. Darrell David asked about our approach to Pokemon Go. Yes, I have not played the game. And other cutting-edge mobile apps. I think we will be quite circumspect about expanding IMDA's regulatory ambit without being clear about our real concerns and whether there are other levers to manage the disamenities or undesirable outcomes. So the advisory of the police, I think, is about the right response at this point in time. We must also be mindful about not unnecessarily dampening the spirit of innovation that is so critical to the development of innovative products and services in this sector. So I mentioned earlier about the integration of the IDA labs, the Game Supervision Center and Creator Space is precisely intended to help develop exciting new ideas such as the next Pokemon Go. So there are many more projects in the pipeline. IDA's iSprint is today a very successful program that helps SMEs raise their productivity through investments in Infocom. And we can extend iSprint to the media SMEs to help them use Infocom technologies to raise productivity and grow faster. And we will share more of the details of this effort in the coming months. So I echo Mr. Ganesh Rajaram's comment that freelancers are very important in the media industry, and that is why MD has been working with the Association of Independent Producers, or IPRO, to encourage the adoption of industry best practices such as including freelancers insurance as a qualifying cost item in all PSB-funded programs in MDA's master agreement with MediaCorp. Moving forward, IMDA will also look into ways to support freelancers better, including his suggestion of setting up a freelancers guild. So besides developing talent, amidst changing media consumption habits, we must continue to have good quality local programs for Singaporeans to enjoy, build strong capabilities in the production of this local content, and develop effective channels that stay relevant. The IMDA will continue to encourage this through the public service broadcasting, and PSB funds do not just fund MediaCorp programs, but also support the growth of independent media sector through outsourcing. And Mr. Ganesh Rajaram commented on the importance of transparency in PSB funding. Sir, MDA has in place today a framework to ensure that the PSB funds are well spent. We conduct regular audits of PSB funding expenditures to ensure that the funding arrangements and agreements are adhered to and that proper processes and internal controls are in place. And since 2013, we have now set aside some PSB funding for independent producers. The PSB Contestable Fund Scheme, which was mentioned by Mr. Ganesh, is also open to all local production companies to enable the commissioning and the development of innovative content with public service value. Mr. Zaki Mohammed asked how IMDA will encourage Infocom media professionals to develop their skills and competency. So I announced the new Tech Skills Accelerator, or TESA, at this year's Committee of Supply to develop the Infocom manpower capabilities. Through TESA, which is an initiative under Skills Future, we can better plan, coordinate, and enable the development of ICT professionals. We have made it a point to partner major employers for TESA because employers must buy into our efforts to build a strong Singaporean core. There has been considerable progress since my announcement of TESA in April this year. In fact, earlier this month, IDA launched an industry consultation for its first draft of the ICT skills framework under TESA. IDA has also been engaging key industry players at the senior management level, and they have expressed strong support for TESA. So besides TESA, IMDA will also launch several exciting projects to nurture a generation of digital natives in time to come. For example, the existing ICT learning roadmap will be augmented to include key media domains, such as storytelling, into an Infocom media learning roadmap. This roadmap will encourage Singaporeans to develop skills that are available in today's digital age. IMDA will also be developing the media skills framework for key job roles, which include current and emerging skills maps that indicate competencies for each occupational level and career progression pathways. This will help to encourage employers to hire talent based on skills and competencies rather than academic qualifications. On this point, I thank Mr. Darrell David for his suggestion to look into harmonizing degree and non-degree employment practices for Infocom media professionals, and we will work closely with the relevant agencies such as MOF and MOM as he was suggested. So I also would like to thank Mr. Zaki Muhammad, Mr. Ganesh Rajaram, Mr. Louis Ng, Mr. Kok Heng Luan for their questions and comments about arts and content regulation, including content classification policy. Our regulatory framework in this area has always been guided by three fundamental principles: protect the young by providing more choices for adults, reflect community values and support racial and religious harmony, and safeguard national and public interests. These principles remain relevant in a rapidly changing media landscape. IMDA will continue to regulate content while ensuring that guidelines are in line with community values and social norms. The relevant regulatory provisions will be found in subject-specific legislation such as the Broadcasting Act, the Films Act, the Undesirable Publications Act, and the Public Entertainments and Meetings Act. So I would like to make a few points on the suggestions raised by NMP Mr. Kok Heng Luan. I wish to assure Mr. Kok that IMDA will continue to take seriously its role in promoting creativity and content creation, as has been done by MDA thus far. As a content regulator, MDA will take into account community values before deciding on the classification in order to strike a balance between the artistic merits of the performance and broader social norms. And in so doing, IMDA will be as transparent as possible. For the Les Miserables example that was raised earlier, I've already given my response to NMP Mr. Kok Heng Luan's PQ. In short, MDA reviewed the feedback and established that the organizer had failed to inform MDA of a particular scene that had an impact on the classification rating. This was conveyed to the organizer, who decided to remove the scene on its own volition. MDA also strives to inform organizers of its decision early, once all the supporting information and materials are received and processed. In a small number of cases, more time may be needed to assess the content due to its sensitive or controversial nature. In the photography exhibition, I Know Why the Rebel Sings, MDA informed the organizers of its concern as soon as MDA determined, after consultation, that the exhibition contained photographs of members from a terrorist-linked organization who had committed acts of violence to further their cause, such as suicide bombing. MDA then conveyed clearly to the organizer that Singapore takes a firm stand against extremism and would not allow photographs that undermine public order or national interest or security to be displayed. So Mr. Louis Ng shared his concerns on the protection of personal data. We recognize that many companies collect and hold personal data, and it's important that they put in place measures to protect their customers' personal data. The PDPC has undertaken many outreach activities to promote awareness of personal data protection in Singapore. The PDPC has also released a number of advisory guidelines, such on securing personal data on electronic medium, so that companies have practical tips and resources to help them adopt better ICT security measures. Moving ahead, the PDPC will update the existing guidelines and also issue new guidelines and resources to help our companies so that they can put in place better measures to protect their customers' personal data. Mr. Ng also raised an important point about instances of Singaporeans falling prey to phishing and malware attacks. Raising awareness of cybersecurity and heightening Singaporeans' vigilance against online cybercrime is something that all of us have to work together to achieve. IMDA will play a role as part of its outreach efforts alongside partners such as the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, schools, and our law enforcement agency. Finally, sir, I thank Mr. Zaki Muhammad and Mr. Ganesh Rajaram for commenting on the process of securing the coverage of major sporting events, the Olympic Games being the topical issue in point. Sir, the Minister for Culture, Community and Youth has stated that the decision on whether and how to broadcast the Olympic Games should remain a commercial one. I agree that the parties should aim to conclude their negotiations early, especially given the significant interest by our public. However, sir, we cannot compel parties to reach a deal that does not make commercial sense, or which results in escalating content prices in the long run. And I take Mr. Rajaram's point that content prices will go up because it's in demand. MCCY and MCI will continue to monitor the content market developments closely, but nevertheless, I'm glad that in the end, the parties eventually reached a deal that allowed Singaporeans to watch the Olympics live, cheer our Team Singapore athletes on, and join in celebrating Joseph Schooling's historic achievement. I too, like Mr. Rajaram, watched the 50 seconds moment of glory for Singapore on a small handheld device while playing golf. So I mentioned in my earlier speech that IMDA will encourage greater sectoral innovation and transformation through leveraging Infocom media technology. Let me give an example. Logistics is one such industry that can greatly benefit from this effort. IMDA, together with Spring, has started to explore ways to leverage technology to help streamline delivery schedule, thus reducing truck congestion at loading bays or retail malls and increasing the productivity of logistics service providers. This is currently being deployed at Tampines Mall, and initial results have been encouraging. IMDA is also working with HDB to deploy federated parcel lockers in residential areas to make it more convenient for consumers to receive their packages and improve productivity for last-mile delivery services. In addition, IMDA will also work with other agencies, including GovTech, to help businesses better leverage Infocom media technologies to transform, and I thank Mr. Thomas Chua for raising this point. So in conclusion, I believe I've addressed most of the issues that have been raised by members, and I'd like to thank them for the support, and I'm confident that IMDA will be a forward-looking organization that will help Singapore and Singaporeans seize the exciting opportunities in the Infocom media sector through dynamic industry and manpower development initiatives while safeguarding the interests of consumers and fostering pro-enterprise regulations.